Hi, welcome to John's Jeep Garage. Today is Saturday college football kickoff. And we're going to learn how to cook jambalaya. It's a tradition I've been doing for over 30 years. And jambalaya comes in many forms, but this is a sausage and chicken. It's a really awesome recipe. You can spice it up, you can tone it down, do what you want. I went to LSU from Louisiana, and what you'll learn is that no matter if you follow the team or a fan or not a fan, you'll love the food. So hopefully you learned something, and this is actually your recipe because when you start to tweak it around and adjust it to what you like, it's yours. And that's the fun thing about jambalaya. So hopefully you learned something, and come on, let's get into it. Thank you. So let's go through the ingredients list. I love shopping at H-E-B here in Texas, and I know if I'm in Louisiana, I can get some really customized andouille sausage and stuff. But today we're just going to use this Cajun style andouille. These are in 12-ounce packages, and then I got a 14 ounce of Texas original smoked sausage. I'm going to kind of make it more of a medium jambalaya. Didn't spice it all the way up with the sausage because some other people that I know that can't handle too much of the spice are going to eat it, but I will spice it up a little bit with some cayenne pepper, and then we can add our favorite sauces. This is a bunch of them, of course, Tabasco, but if you've never tried the tiger sauce, you get like a sweet spicy out of that. That's just fantastic. H-E-B chicken, I love it. Total, I try to go maybe like 2 pounds if I can to 3 pounds in the sausage area, 2.5 pounds maybe in the chicken breast area, and I'll cut them up in chunks, and you'll see how I do that. So 2 sweet onions, medium size. I do not use a green bell pepper. That has a different flavor. Like, it's not if I'm cooking some type of marinara sauce, but I'll either use the orange or yellow, but definitely the red as well. I use green onions, just a bunch of green onions, and then about 6 or 7 celery stalks. You can get them pre-cut. It's cheaper this way if you cut them yourself. I'm cheating today. I'm not gonna chop up or dice my garlic, but I got the pre-chopped garlic. Need about 2 to 2.5 tablespoons of that. I use parboiled rice. If you've never used parboiled rice, the long grain, it definitely makes a difference when you're eating the jambalaya and how the rice breaks apart. Even though I got a 32-ounce size, I'm gonna use probably about 1 3/4 pounds. So a little bit of the bag is going to be left over. I don't use water at all. Definitely use chicken broth. Get 2 cans of it. And then, man, I love H-E-B. But the tomatoes from diced tomatoes, there's a lot of different varieties out there. But notice the garlic and olive oil flavor, the Italian style flavor, the fire roasted. I try to mix it up, but I need 3 cans. Now here's something I do. I do not drain it. I put it all in because I want that liquid, because that liquid's gonna be part of with the chicken broth, what I use to soak up and cook that rice. Black pepper, gonna need some bay leaves, of course. I'll show you when and how to use them. Basil, again, H-E-B, love it. Oregano, thyme, cumin. Actually, this is a sin, but I'm using Lawry's seasoned salt, which is awesome, but I prefer Tony Chachere's seasoning. I just didn't have any in the kitchen, but I don't want to hold myself up. Love cayenne pepper. And then, again, the sauces, 12-quart pot, the knives. But as I do this, you're going to see how I cut it up, the sizes. The only other thing is the start in the pot, I use olive oil. Again, I love H-E-B, but I'm going to use, use what you want. But I started off by browning the chicken, then the sausage, and you'll see how everything else comes together. Okay? The way I do this, and the way I start doing this, is lay out the breasts, and then I go ahead and I look at and I trim just a little bit of this fat off of each one. So, from a chicken breast standpoint, all I'm trying to do is probably the smallest piece of chicken would be like that, because your chicken's going to break up anyway, and I really don't want it to. This is probably a perfect size, but I like when I go into my jambalaya, I don't want to try to find chicken. I want it to be there for me. So usually, what you see is I'm cutting up the chunks where that's what's in my jambalaya. So I'm going to take this, put it in another dish. This is going to be one of those I cook for the dog food, and I'm going to remove this and clean this area before I start cutting the vegetables. Okay? That's with the chicken. Actually, I'm going to cut the sausage next. So with the sausage, I'm going to cut it in chunks about this size. Actually, I put the sausage in after. I brown the chicken first, which you'll see, and then I add the sausage right after that. Happening right now, this is just on hold while I start cleaning up the vegetables for the next step. Okay? So I'm looking for about 5 or 6 cells, so I got 6 here. I'm going to wash these. I have some extra celery that I'll clean up and put in the fridge later. But I'm going to wash these, and then I'm going to cut these up, and I'll show you. So I like to split my celery so it's easier to chop. And look, there's some professional chefs out there that will blow me away. I'm not claiming to be one. I'm just claiming to be a tailgating sports fan that has experience in cooking jambalaya, and you are going to see and learn how I do it. So I've tried to chop it up as much as I can, but they are thick chunks. I'll get a close-up here in a little bit for you. I don't know if you can see better the size of the chunks. Then I got these little pieces I got to deal with. But once this cooks down, you'll see, you're just trying to get that flavor of the celery in there. Okay, next, I wash and rinse the green onions. I use the whole stalk. Right where the roots are and the bulbs are, I take those off. I get the other end, and I cut those off. Some people may use them, I don't. And then, so you can see, it's not too fine, but that's what they look like. Now I have onions that I'm cutting up in there, so when I get to this, I just toss those away, and then I add this to my vegetables. But let me tell you what's really missing. Cheers. Here's to making jambalaya. Here's to College Football Saturday. Here's to John's Jeep Garage. Oh man, first sip of the day. Let's get going. So I have celery, green onions in here. Doesn't matter what next. I keep putting them all in here because of how I do it. So look, again, more of a wrong knife. More of a disclaimer. I'm a football fan. I'm a Jeep enthusiast. And the chefs out there may be dying because they're seeing everything I'm doing and saying it's wrong. But I core it like this, pull all the seeds out. And then what I do, you see how they have the 3 veins? Well, of course I take the sticker off. But I'm just throwing everything over here in a bowl. But I just go down that vein. So I have a piece of pepper like that, piece of pepper like this, and a piece of pepper like this. And I just take those, maybe it's a waste, but I take that and I toss it. And I'll trim this up just a little bit, but I'm gonna go rinse this off. Come back. I like getting them in something like this. You could, if you want them a little thinner, cut them a little thinner. But, I mean, that's probably as thin as I'd cut them. You know, on that one side. So if you look at that, it's gonna add some color to it as well. That's why sometimes I pick the orange, because that orange adds a lot of color as well. So I'm going to do this one. So when you look at that, it's pretty. Now I haven't started this yet because I'm doing a lot on the video, but normally probably by about this time I would already start browning the chicken, but we're going to take it through steps. You decide how you want to do it. So I like to, is anybody's onions? Oh, I definitely need a sharp knife. Just cut off the tops. Let's do this guy. Much better. This one has the sticker. So these guys are just gonna go in this bowl over here. Sorry. That helps. Okay, so got an onion, cut the tops off. I just gonna do 4 little cuts so I can grab that first. Layer. Okay, now this might look like a lot of onion, but this definitely is needed because when you put all of this together, the intense flavor that you get out of jambalaya, some people I've seen use 3. I kind of tone back and use 2 because these are, look at my hands. You know, I'm a 6'2" guy, 275 pounds, and those are some pretty good size. They're bigger ones, but they're some pretty good size onions. So, I like the way the color looks. Got another onion. I'm gonna speed this up and we'll be done. Last of the veggies will be garlic. See this? Nice vegetables and chopped garlic. Now watch how I do this. No measuring, just kind of like a, oh great, boom. You may think this is too much garlic, but that's what I use. And believe me, in the 12-quart pot, okay, so here's where we are. Chicken, sausage, all the vegetables. 3 cans of the diced tomatoes open. 2 cans of the chicken broth open. And what's left, and what I like to do, and if I go like tailgating at a football game, I get a Ziploc and I put all the seasoning in all together. So black pepper, I'm gonna do, when I cook the chicken, the black pepper itself will season the chicken, so I won't add any to this part of the seasoning. The Tony Chachere's or the Lari seasoned salt or salt, I don't use salt. I use some of the seasoning salt because I get enough. I do that when I add it to the chicken when I'm browning the chicken. So what that leaves is, let's see, let's start with oregano. So oregano, it's a brand new package. So I don't know, I've never really used like teaspoons or stuff, so I have a big hand. And it's pretty much a tablespoon of oregano, but what I do is I just kind of have put it in my hand, kind of just in the insert pocket right there. I don't know if you can see it, but basically a tablespoon. But that's how I do it. I don't, basil, do about a teaspoon of basil. So it's a little less, maybe that much. So, you know, from my standpoint, it's just, I've been using this, but just say a teaspoon. So we got a tablespoon of oregano, teaspoon of basil. What else do I have? Cumin, teaspoon. Actually, about a half a teaspoon. When I, kind of gives you that, put it in chili. So you can see it, boom. Now that's what's great about this type of jambalaya. The flavors will change as you do it, but I've been doing it for so many years. It's kind of how I look this all the time. Now, you can use fresh thyme. For you out there that want to do that, that's fine. But I use about another, I don't know, 1/2 to 3/4 of a teaspoon of thyme. Boom. And, oh yeah, cayenne pepper. You need to figure that out, because for me, you can add any one of your hot sauces to that, but I don't know, I start at least with a full teaspoon, maybe 3/4 of a teaspoonful of cayenne pepper. So is that too much for you? I don't know. A 12-quart pot, boom. And bay leaves. So a couple things about bay leaves. I don't put the bay leaves in until after I've put the tomatoes in that I don't drain and the chicken broth. And I put them in when it's in a liquid form. I don't want to mix it up in a dry form and break the bay leaves. The other thing is that before you ever freeze jambalaya, and I'm not saying you're going to do it because we eat it all before you ever need to freeze it, but take the bay leaves out. So I put about 4 bay leaves in there, and you'll see when I add the bay leaves. Again, so we put the oregano, the thyme, the cumin, the basil, looking out here, oh yeah, the cayenne pepper, and then I'm going to leave the seasoning salt and the black pepper when I brown the chicken. Okay, so we got our olive oil in our pot, and this is the time where what we're doing, we're just browning the chicken. But it's critical that you get the pot hot and the oil hot. What I'm going to do is I'm just, you can hear it, just adding the chicken, and we want it hot. And I told you before, we're going to add our black pepper. I'm adding probably a teaspoon. And then I'm adding either the Tony Chachere's or the Lari seasoning. Remember, I don't use any salt. And I'm probably adding about 1.5 teaspoons. And so you can add another, I don't know, 1/2 pound of chicken on here if you want as well. For me, the whole goal is just to kind of get the color to look white and to, you know, start the browning process on the chicken. Now again, I have it hot because you're going to start adding more and more to this, so we're just letting it sit. And the next step is we're going to be adding the sausage to this. So very seasoned. Now if you're somebody who really likes salt, and this is again seasoning salt, you can add a little bit more, but this is the step I added. I don't add it in other steps. And I do this because you got the oil and the seasoning and the browning all happening, and you got most of the seasoning attaching to the plain chicken, which is probably the product that has the least amount of flavor. And it looks like we're at a point where I can add the sausage. Remember, I got some HEB regular sausage, and I got some andouille sausage in here. And what I'm trying to do, same way on the cast iron pot, is I'm trying to just get that flavor to blend. Okay, maybe total amount of time between 5, 6, 7 minutes. Just been mixing it around, letting it sit. And then the next thing I do is I add all the vegetables that we cooked, including the garlic. So slowly just adding it. Watch that color get added to this. So everything we cut up is now getting added. And if you've ever like sauteed vegetables or cooked vegetables, I mean, one of the things that you look for is that kind of that translucent color. So what I'm going to do is mix it very well. I'm not covering it. The heat and temperature have dropped because I've added the cooked vegetables, but I'm still at a high heat, but I'm not at the very high heat. I'm probably at 3/4, a little bit of, above medium. On a number scale, if you have 1 through 8, let's just say I'm on 6. So this is what it's looking like right now. And you look, we haven't added any rice, and we haven't added any seasoning. And I'm just going to let it sit for a little while. Keep mixing it until I start seeing a little bit more translucent color on the vegetables. Let's just say from a time perspective, about another 3-4 minutes. As you can see, this is why, this chicken is going to get cooked. So it's not like we were premature and too early. But I'm just waiting for those vegetables to get a little bit more, and again, the word I'm going to use is translucent. But maybe a couple more minutes. But you gotta mix it, because you want the ones on top. Okay, I'm getting to that point where, and this looks good by itself, doesn't it? But I'm getting to that point where I feel like we're at our next step. Now, it's critical from a flavor standpoint what we're doing. So what I like to do before I add any of the liquids, and here's all that seasoning that we had before, I'm gonna spread the seasoning out. Everything we decided to put in there before. And then now, I'm gonna mix that seasoning very well. Because I want it to, man, if you could smell this, you would realize how awesome it is. But you're just at a point where you're really trying to get the vegetables right there, but you've added the seasoning to where that last minute you're transitioning, mixing the vegetables. Okay, seasoning's mixed in. And I think the vegetables are right at that point where this is what I call translucent. So from start to finish, and I'm giving you like descriptors, but I want to say maybe 7 minutes from when we added the vegetables. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to add is the diced tomatoes, liquid included. And remember, 3 cans. 1, 2, and another Italian style. And guess what? You mix it in. But so you can start seeing the liquid. You can start seeing the flavor. See the liquid right there. You can see how the flavor's blending with everything. And once we get that mixed, remember we're still on high heat, but we've been adding a lot to it, is we want to put in the chicken broth. All we were doing from a tomato, not cooking anymore. We just want to get it good and mixed, and now we're going to add the chicken broth. So, if you remember how many cans, regular chicken broth, which is 2 full cans. And what do you think is our next step? Mix it again. Get it all the way in. I know what you're thinking. You're saying, John, that's a 12-quart pot, and you still haven't added the rice and other ingredients, which the other ingredients really bay leaves. But and yes, that's the case, but there's a lot of liquid in there, and the rice will fit into a lot of the pockets, but we pretty much max out the size of this this pot here. So now that we have the liquid in here, you see why the last step, or second last step, is adding the bay leaves so they don't break. Very nice. Boom. Very nice. Boom. Very nice. Boom. And very nice. Boom. So now, as I said, because I don't want to break them, I'm just going to start to submerge them in there. Because once the liquid's in there, then slowly mix this. And as I'm heating it, I need to add the rice. So I have a 32-ounce bag, 2 pounds. Again, it's the parboiled rice. Mahatma Gold makes a nice one too. I'm using Zatarain's. Now, if you like a more proportional meat to your rice, then add less rice. But then you may have to drain your tomatoes. But I want to show you. Oops, so far spilling it. Out of that 2-pound bag, I'm going to add a little bit more. But it might look like it's wasting. But on that 12-quart pot, this little bit of rice right here, I'm not going to add to it. And the next step in this fabulous process is, of course, mixing it. Okay, so what do you think you do with normal recipes like this? You make sure the heat's on, you bring it to a boil. After you bring it to a boil, I'm gonna mix it one more time, I'm gonna cover it, and then I'm just gonna let it simmer. And we're gonna let it simmer between 20-25 minutes. And once you finish, and we'll show you the steps, we're gonna let it cool so it can absorb the remaining moisture. All right, so right now we're just gonna wait for it to boil, mix it, cover it, and let it simmer for about 20-25 minutes. Okay, it's starting to come to a boil, and I am going to do a little mixing, and then we'll cover. Boy, this looks good. I will cover. Now that it's boiling, I will cover this, and then I'll let it simmer. And again, I'm targeting 20-25 minutes. Okay, we're probably 10 minutes into it. I'm just taking it off. You can see it simmering, and I'm just wanting to mix it. Now, if this was a cast iron pot, and I know we're not doing this via cast iron, you would definitely have to mix it on a more frequent basis, because that cast iron can really burn. Well, boy, is it starting to look good, huh? And then I flatten it back out. Chunks of meat, still right temperature, haven't adjusted it. Close the lid as soon as you can, and there you go. So as I said, the time of this thing, it actually took about 30 minutes of simmering, and then I let it sit almost 10 minutes of just to kind of cool down. But when you look at that, look at the chunks of chicken and sausage, and you can see when I was talking before about the color, you know, when you look at the celery, when you look at the red, the yellow, but the flavor of this jambalaya is fantastic. So I have to tell you, the reason I know it's ready is because the wine is finished. And try to spice it up with some Tabasco or tiger sauce. Thank you for watching this video, and hopefully it helps you enjoy some of the football season.